said this repeatedly, all right, but this is not about you necessarily. If there's one thing that we can get through to you over these 2 days, it is that your ministry calling, well, God may have given that to you individually, is not just about you, all right? There are people out there in the world who are dependent upon you in whatever role you've been called to do, for them to see and understand the gospel message and to make that decision for Jesus Christ. That is a part of your calling. The organization that is sponsoring is also part of that calling. I know some of you have gone through a lot of processes in order to wind up with the ministry organization where you are. Now, Nicolette and I were talking a little while earlier about what it was that brought her to World Venture and her husband to World Venture. And one of the things that brought them in that direction was a relationship, a person that she had met who happens to be a representative of the ministry, and she just really liked him. And he was a good guy, a great guy. They had good conversations, and when she and her husband, felt this is what God is calling us, it was a natural transition for them to move toward that ministry because what happened? A relationship had developed. In the same way, there is a relationship with your partner team that you're working to develop. Right? Some of them you don't have no idea who they are yet. I know World Venture uses a term they call support discovery. And that's an interesting concept to that because the idea here is that God has kind of a treasure hunt out there for you. And He's put people in different places and different areas and different capacities to be a part of your team. And part of our challenge is to discover who those people are. And I kind of like that. I like that point of view. There's really a picture here that I think is an important one. And I'm going to confound our people here, see if I can do this in any kind of artistic fashion. Where the work that you do and the people that you do it with are in a sense like a three-legged stool. And I don't know if you've ever tried to sit on a two-legged or a one-legged stool before, but it's really hard. The three-legged stool concept is very important. If this is the work, then it takes us as missionaries or staff people, it takes our organization as well, because it provides the context for that ministry to occur, and it takes the partners to make that work as well. And I view God as part of every one of these things, but particularly here, in the outcomes that we're going to achieve together. It can be pretty dramatic, but you remove one of those legs, and boy, it is hard. It is really tough. Let me emphasize this. You are, in fact, a representative of an organization. You're not a lone ranger, okay? Barry and I have worked with so many organizations over the years where there are real problems within their missionary teams because a certain percentage of missionaries will not want to acknowledge at all that they're engaged with the parent organization. They have problems with it for one reason or another. Perhaps it's a person, perhaps it's a policy, perhaps it's a project. 3 T's, how about that? Person, okay, project, that works. Perhaps it's a project that they wanted to do that would not be approved or something along those lines. And so they discount the role that the organization plays in the work, much to their detriment. May I say that? Much to their detriment. All right? You're not a lone ranger. You want to make sure that your sponsoring organization is the foundation upon which your ministry, calling, plans, and partnerships are built. There are benefits to that. Somebody volunteered to me why that is an important issue. I realize some of you are life-termers and some of you are brand new. But why do you want to make sure your sponsoring organization is that foundation for you? Alex?
Well, it can be hard to be passionate about sharing your vision or communicating your vision if you're not on board with the sponsoring organization in every way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
You need accountability and stability.
So now accountability and stability. All right. There's another ability there that's very important to you as well. And I'll say this right out. The C word, credibility, is vitally important to you. All right? I have a bunch of questions here that people can typically ask. If you were not with some organization, some of these kinds of questions would come at you. What qualifies you for this kind of work? Do you know that language where you're planning to go? Are you going to live there and learn it for the next 10 years before you're able to do anything? How do you know that what will work to reach people in that location? Are you receiving any training in this ministry pursuit? Some of you left other lives in order to go into the work that you're doing now. I don't know if you were doctors or lawyers or Indian chiefs or whatever. But suddenly you're making a rather radical departure from your life before calling BC to your life, excuse me, after the fact. And it's very radically different from what you have done. I know Sherry used to be a development director for Glen Erie Conference Center over here. All right? Now she's going to Spain. Is that a little bit different than what she's doing? Well, she was kind of involved in fundraising and marketing and those kinds of things, so she's kind of doing that, but it's only on the front end. All of a sudden she wants to be a missionary in Spain. What does that mean? Credibility comes to you through the organization that is, quote, sending you. All right? And too many missionaries fail to realize that. Global Teams provides context and meaning for your ministry to take place. All right? World Venture does the same thing. Mission to the World, the same thing. ACJB does the same thing. And you know what? Each of those organizations, despite their bad points, has developed certain levels of expertise to accomplish the purposes that you are going to be taking to the field or into your assignment. And it's a tremendous comfort to your supporters, to your prospective partners, that you're working with somebody that knows what they're doing. You're working with somebody that has a plan. You're working with somebody that has boots on the ground in that particular area, and you're not going in pioneering all by yourself. Now, I say that carefully because I worked a long time with New Tribes Mission. New Tribes Mission, they'll do initial surveys, but then they put missionaries into tribal areas where there has been no one before. And that's hard. But you know what? They go through 3 to 5 years of rigorous training before they ever set boots on the ground. Right? And that is a part of their message when those people are raising support, that we're going to get that training, and this organization knows how to do that and do it well. It is a comfort to your supporters to know that those things are true about your particular ministry assignment. Right? And even if you have an office-type job where you're doing secretarial work, or you're doing an assistant to the executive work, or you're doing development work or whatever, it's still important to have that context of the larger organization. Why? Because, well, credibility, accountability, operations that we know will work. You know, I don't know that there's a whole lot of missionaries that are successful when the partners write the check every month to the missionary. And I have to send that to Japan someplace and hope it's going to reach you and you're going to be able to live off of it. Well, that's a problem. What's wrong with that picture? Right? Well, for one thing, they don't get a tax deduction if they're writing a check to the individual. And there's a lot of risks at stake when you're writing checks to an individual. And there's virtually no accountability. That individual can't write you a receipt. They can't keep track of all kinds of problems there. It's one of the reasons why the parachurch organizations have risen up, all right? Because we can do those kinds of things. We have those kinds of operations and so forth in place to make it work. All right? So credibility is a very, very significant issue. There's a statement here. I believe God has called me to work as a missionary in World at Hearts Outreach in Slovenia, a 5-year effort to plant 25 new churches and reach 5,000 people for Christ. If I said, I'm going to go into Slovenia and reach 5,000 people for Christ in 5 years, that sort of stretches the credibility a little bit. I mean, it's maybe a pretty powerful vision, but if I know anything about Slovenia, I know, okay, what qualifies you to do that? How are you going to do that? I mean, it raises more questions than I think I might be able to answer. If I put my assignment in the context of the larger organization's vision for that particular region, suddenly it makes sense to my prospective partners. Right? This kind of comes back to what we were doing at the end of our last session. We were writing a statement that puts our own assignments into that context and helps the prospective partner or the current partner realize the role that they're playing. See? All right? Linking our assignments to what others do, linking our assignments to the organization's vision and the organization's planning and so forth becomes a powerful way to engage prospects and partners, okay? It helps them see that it can be done because it doesn't all rest on your shoulders. And even if you invite them to be a part of it, it doesn't rest on their shoulders either. But when it's resting on all three of these legs here, then suddenly it becomes meaningful and possible. And people are very, very keen to invest in things they believe are possible. Not too many people are willing to invest in the impossible. And that's a principle you just got to remember. You need to keep your ministry assignments in the context of what your organization can do. No one organization is going to convert every person in China. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Right? God may allow all of the organizations that are working in China to have a significant role in helping convert many people in China, but it's not going to happen through you, all right? You need to help people realize that. Okay?